home run. Someone had to go last, and Mitch Mulligan from Botches put his hand up, didn't you, Mitch? A little bit of about Mitch. Mitch is founder and managing director of Botches Australia, established in 1998, and is president and board member of the Visual Connections, formerly the Graphic Art and Merchants Association of Australia. He's also a fellow and past president of the Lithographic Institute of Australia. For over 2 decades, Mitch has been involved in building technical sales team with the main area of expertise being in press product applications. Main focus has been on polymeric technologies, chemistry and technical applications, mainly related to rubber printing rollers, blankets and the mediums used in the printing machine. This knowledge is coupled with the resources of the world's largest supplier of graphic art rollers, Felix Botcher, to positively impact on local businesses throughout Australia and New Zealand. Mitch focuses on education and implementation of world's best practice across Botch's customer base, implementing technologies and practice that result in significantly reduced consumption of raw materials and lowering carbon footprint. Mitch also has been involved in presenting at SWUG over a number of years. You usually see those rubber balls flying across the stage, and Mitch is the only guy I know who has a habit of leaving his balls behind. So, Mitch.
So it's going to be a short presentation because Dan has my balls, apparently, which is good. Now, that introduction will be longer than the whole presentation. It's got 10 slides to run through. And really, the purpose of this presentation was that when travelling around, I see a lot of opportunity to improve the life of rollers in web presses, in particular, double width and single width running half webs or quarter webs. And I watch a lot of roller wear result and that maybe could be stopped. So this is what it's all about, just hopefully extending that life a little bit. So when we have a roller that runs in production, especially with half web, you've got the medium, the ink medium running through the centre of the rollers all the time. And it has the impact of extracting plasticizers out of the roller in the centre. As a result of that, we get what we call is shrinkage in the centre, and it looks like the picture there, and it loses the diameter in the centre of the roller. What generally happens when that happens is the printers trying to compensate for that go ahead and reset those rollers a little bit harder. And as a result, we get some other things happening through that whole process. The ends of the rollers are actually larger in diameter by this time because they've retained what was closer to the original diameter, whilst the centre is a smaller diameter. And if you divide your diameter by pi, you can start to work out that there's some millimetres involved, which gives some really different dynamics with torques happening around the circumference of the roller. And over time, this has some negative impact on the rollers themselves. At its worst, we get dynamic overloading on the ends of the rollers. At its lightest, we start to get some type of picking where the actual roller has gotten that hot that it starts to dry out and the surface of the roller starts to get picked away from it. And really that's where the force comes into play. Along with that, you start to get some striking or some scumming down the edge of your print pages when you go back to full width webs as well. Unfortunately, the damage to rollers is unavoidable in as much as the extraction of the diameter in the centre. The best compounds in the world cannot overcome that purely, but we can do stuff to try and limit the impact of those. So to try and reduce that and the negative impacts of that dynamic overload in the press room, we need to do just a simple process, and this is just one suggestion for today. If you can set them as light as you can so don't overcompensate, just don't go too heavy on the setting. Secondly, see if you can use a lubricant for the end of the rollers where you're not running inks. There's one possible product out there, and there's probably many others, but we have one that we've put into many sites, and I know P&P have used this to great success, but it has an extension nozzle that allows you to get into the unit to the ends of the rollers, lasts about 50,000 copies, doesn't need to be washed up, and it's a very simply applied product. And really, if you just did that at regular intervals when you're running those half webs or narrow webs, you would help decrease the impact on the ends of those rollers. Simple. Now it's beer time. Thank you very much. Cheers.
That's right. The balls are in my hand.